jobs were able to even make it, right? And maybe we need to get even more creative. Did we try to FaceTime, you know? The iPhone now has the capability, the newest update, to have 4 at a time, right? You could have had 4 people with 4, that's 16 people already, right? We just got to get creative and really engaging our community. And I believe Matt's brought it up too before, when we stream these type of community conversations web, right? Like something like that would be definitely useful, so.
Okay, my next one is just a statement. Matt, when you were talking before, you were talking about a nominal increase. So looking at the numbers, I don't actually feel that the $6 is a nominal increase. So if you look at this chart on page 17, it doesn't give the difference in the chart, but if you just do the math, so a credit student taking 15 credits per term, the $6 is an additional $270 a year, difference between scenario 1 and scenario 4, $270. Oh, I'm sorry, a year, right? No, per term, you're right, per term. If you're taking 12 credit hours, 216, and if you're taking 9 credit hours, 162. That's a big difference. That to me is not a nominal increase. So it does not, you're right. So I think or it might actually, it's unclear. So I disagree that $6 is nominal. I just fundamentally disagree with that. I want to ask a question about the Pell, because it says in here this currently represents 60% of Lane students. But when I dig through sources of data, so if I look at College Navigator, that shows 49%. If I look at the College Scorecard, that shows 45%. In previous briefings, we've been told our percent of Pell is decreasing over time. So I'm unclear of the 60% number. That doesn't seem to mesh with prior data or other data points. Is the 60% definitely accurate? Because it's different than, I mean, that's a huge difference between what the Department of Education is saying.
That's the number we received from our Director of Financial Aid last week. So it's the most current number we have from our Financial Aid Director.
Mr. Chair, I'd like time to respond, please, since I was...
Well, just a second, she isn't quite done yet.
So 60% is as of when? What year data is that?
The 60%, I'm not sure where that's, but I can give you some information if you like it. For 17, right? Yes, thank you.
So for 2017-18, our most recently completed award year, we had 73.81% of our aid recipients receiving Pell Grants.
Yeah, that's of aid recipients. So what is it of the total population?
That I don't have right here. We dispersed, but we dispersed aid to 5,299 students in that year. So if you have the total credit, degree seeking enrollment, you can figure that out from there. 63.95% of Pell recipients have a 0 EFC, so they receive the maximum Pell Grant.
I get that. I'm actually less worried, to be honest with you, about Pell recipients. I'm more worried about the impact on students who aren't Pell recipients, who fall outside of the 0 EFC. So that's where because they're going to feel the greater impact of the tuition increase than those who are 0 EFC. So I appreciate that the tuition increase would still keep in mind that the Pell would cover that cost of the tuition increase for 0 EFC. It's those that aren't that I'm concerned about. So that's just another point. Another one is I would just like to, we talk about it a lot about this at like OCCA events when we're in DC, but about the risk sharing proposal that Republicans like, Democrats like, you know, it's probably going to end up in the Higher Ed Act in some form or another, right? And so earlier this week, there was an article on Politico, I'm sure Brett has seen it, about the risk sharing proposal coming up again. You have, it says, the bill that was introduced last year, it was a bipartisan bill between Alexander and Shaheen, would have held colleges accountable for the rate at which their former students are successfully repaying their loans, rather than the current default rate metric. So rather than the CDR, which Marge talked about earlier in her comments, which has decreased, I forget what our current number is, 20%, something like that. Under that bill, colleges would have to pay back a share of the federal loans that their students aren't repaying. Presidential hopeful Senator Elizabeth Warren has also pushed similar risk-sharing legislation and has argued forcing colleges to pay back federal student aid will also force them, quote, pay attention to rising costs and failing students. So to be clear, this is a very bipartisan piece of legislation that is likely in our very near future. When you look at our repayment rate, which the only repayment rate that you can really get your hands on is what's on the college scorecard, which is a calculation of students who have paid down $1 of principal 3 years after leaving college, after they've left. Whether they've completed or not, they've only paid down $1 of principal in 3 years. Our rate is 29%. So to be clear, when we're talking about increasing tuition by what I deem non-nominal amounts, we are potentially impacting the fiscal health of the institution in the long run if the federal government does decide to move forward with risk-sharing proposals, which then puts the college on the hook to pay back for these loans that students may themselves not be able to pay back. As another note, also using scorecard data, which I have here someplace, if you look at our how well our students do after they leave. Now again, this is only for those who have received any type of federal aid because that's all the department can track. It says 59% earn more than $25,000 a year 6 years after they entered Lane. Okay, so what that means is 40% of students who had enrolled at Lane are making $25,000 or less a year 6 years after they've left the college. To me, taking all of these things into consideration and all of the stories that we're hearing from students, again, gives me this concern that we are not really thinking fully about the long-term financial picture of the health of the college by continually forcing students to take on more of the burden of paying for things. And if they can't do it through Pell, because they're not zero EFC, so they're not going to fall into this category of having it fully covered, they're going to have to take on debt, which has broader implications for the college than even just an individual student's experiences and their abilities. So I just wanted to make those points clear to the board, so you're piecing together all of these things. And then I'll stop talking.
Okay, Matt, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, since I was called out there, I'd like to opportunity to respond. We're talking about broader implications to the college and the community as a whole, as the fourth or fifth largest employer in the county. The significant cuts to programs and counselors, advisors, would have a major immediate and long-term impact, and it would have an impact not just have an immediate fiscal impact on the community. But we're talking about an impact that would, there'd be a ripple effect in regards to the lack of choices that students would have right here at Lane Community College. And a couple of things I want to correct. The $270 that you mentioned per year, or you mentioned per term, it's per year with a $6 increase. If my back of napkin math is right. And since the 2018 Higher Education Price Index, as referenced in our board policy 320, is 2.8. That's a suggested increase of $3.50, meaning the difference in a scenario in which we're discussing a $6 scenario is $2.50. That is a nominal increase. That is an increase that is less than lunch at any local food truck. It is less than the price of a comic book. It's less than the price of an IPA, drink responsibly, at your favorite local watering hole. So it is a nominal increase, and Oregon's community colleges are discussing tuitions and fees increases that range from 5 to 10% fiscal year 2020, based on our current funding projections, and Lane is on the lower end of that proposal in scenario number 4. What we're not celebrating is the green light that this board gave administration in regards to free credits for any student who will be taking 15 credits or more. Now we've yet to see that come to fruition, but this board stood united saying there's an opportunity for students that want to take 15 credits a year, or 15 credits a term rather, and expedite their time here through Lane. We'll put them on a pathway to graduation quicker. We're going to recognize your effort, and this board supported tuition-free credits, $0 tuition for credits over that 15 credit mark. No one's celebrating that tonight. And when I say it is a nominal increase that keeps programs afloat, I want you to look around the room. There's faculty and staff in this room. And if those programs aren't afloat, faculty and staff in this room may not be in this room. Students may not have the choices they currently have right now. I caution colleagues of freeze. And I'm going to continue like a broken record to say we need debt-free, tuition-free higher education. And we need to continue to lobby our lawmakers in Salem more for adequate and fair funding. And yeah, let's put our thinking caps on about how we might be able to roll that back if we're actually funded somewhere near that QEM level, or somewhere near that $787 million level of the Community College Support Fund. But yes, a nominal increase of $2.50, considering the higher education price index at 2.8% is $3.50, as per board policy would have been generated anyway. That is a nominal increase that can be fairly and equitably spread across the board in order to keep vital programs afloat here at Lane Community College.
Rosie, and I do have myself in the queue somewhere. No, go ahead.
Okay. 2 points I guess I'd like to make. One is I think we're beginning to wear out our constituents and ourselves as well. I think we're starting to repeat ourselves, and at the end of the day I think we need to give some signal tonight about whether or not we're prepared to take action, or we want to defer to April, or what's the pleasure of the board. That's one point. The other point I guess I'd like to make is if the Lane board were considering a tuition increase for the first time in a number of years, it would make more sense to me that we would look to students to partner with the college to preserve the programs and services that you find so important. And I think Matt is right when he says if the board chooses not to increase tuition, there should be no question that changes will follow. And some students will be impacted by that, either a program, a class, a professor. We've heard all those alluded to this evening about the wrong-headed choices perhaps that the board has made in the past in an effort to try to hold Lane together as we get through this period of financial pressure. The other thing I want to say is our primary mission is not to be, as much as we would like to tout our importance as an economic driver, that's not why Lane was created by the taxpayers. Lane was created as an educational institution, and from my perspective, our first and foremost obligation is to our students. So even if this board does entertain a tuition freeze or a scaled back tuition increase, I hope the board will be very precise in providing direction to administration about what kind of changes or impacts to programs and services will be acceptable to the board going forward. For example, I do not support making those budget reductions in the area of advisors and counselors and others who support our students to navigate the system at Lane. And so I know that requires then the administration to look at other either discrete programs that we feel we can no longer afford, that's an impact on students, or other services such as the health clinic and other kinds of things that the college currently operates. So it just is really important to me that we're clear that not raising tuition will have significant ramifications. I just am of the perspective that, given the fact that enrollment continues essentially flat, it is illogical to continue to raise the price of a product that's not selling. And I don't know of another business on the planet that can solve its financial challenges by raising the price of a product people aren't buying.
So as I listen to the input from the board, I'm hearing us center in around either 0 or something smaller than $6 for a tuition increase. And I'm not sure quite where we might settle in, but that's kind of what I'm hearing. I also want to reflect on that it seems to me that the administration and the budget committee through the administration has pleaded with us for a long time